Well, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Johnny, and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. This is going to be part 3 of our Das Werk by Takom, Panther Ausf G, which is the late production version that we're actually doing here. And yeah, so we finished up the upper hull in the last video, so now we're going to work on the turret. And that looks to be should be a lot of fun. Oh, and we have a bunch of other little things to take care of. We're going to do those tow cables and that little cable that's used to install the tracks and that stuff. So let's go ahead and jump down to the bench here and get to work on it. All right, so let us start off by looking at our instructions here. So we've already completed step 12 pretty much. And we're going to go on to step 13, which is our turret. Now, as you can see, the way they've got it laid out, they want us to start putting all those little bitty small parts onto the turret itself. And then as we flip over, then they want us to start assembling the turret. And of course, you've got the front part of the turret there that has the main part for the gun. And the bottom of the turret, the back of the turret, then you put the front piece onto the turret. As you can see there, how they've got it kind of lined out. Now, they don't tell us which parts to put on first. They just got the steps laid out here, as you can see. If we flip on over to step 15, it's continuation of small parts there, installing the gun tube, the machine gun, and all that. So, if we look at this, there are no parts that goes inside that turret. So I think the best way to approach this is to work on all these main sections here of the turret. So that's the turret housing, the back of the turret, the front of the turret, and of course the bottom of the turret. As you can see, the part that holds the gun in place, it's inserted from the front of that front plate, and then the mantlet goes on from the outside. So I think the best approach is to assemble all of the big pieces, and then we can worry about that little bitty stuff. So here is all of our 4 pieces for our main construction for our turret here. The back, the front, and the bottom, as well as the top of the turret. Just going to check the fit here. Now, the bottom of the turret there has got a little a raised tab. That's the word I'm looking for. Fits in that notch on either side there of the turret. And because of the angle there, you can actually push it in. So we don't want to be pushing it in too deep. And then my major concern here is for this front piece here of the turret. We have a 45-degree angle that goes together to make that outside 90, just like so. And it kind of leaves a little bit of a gap, just a hairline gap. And we really don't want that gap there. So just checking here on the back plate of our turret. As you can see, it also has a locator rib that runs down the bottom of it there for the bottom of the turret. So in order to get that in, we'll have to put that in before we put the bottom of the turret on too. So I've decided to start with the front of the turret. And we're going to glue it to the top of the turret there. I'm just going to put some Tamiya extra thin down. And just right across the top edge of it there, right where this piece sets in. Now, we're not gluing those corners yet. We just want to make sure that we're center, and it's a good fit. It aligns correctly, or at least it seems like it aligns correctly. So I just want to press it into place here. And I put the Tamiya extra thin on first. That way it didn't do any wicking down the sides, because we're gonna do those corners there down the left and right side separately. So I just want to make sure everything's pushed up right where it needs to go. Nice and solid. A little bit more extra there in the corners. And yeah, so we're going to give that a few seconds to set off. All right, so once that grabs hold, we're going to go ahead and put us plenty of, to me, extra thin here in that 45 mitered seam there. And we're just going to push it together there and close up that gap. And as you can see, I think a little bit of polystyrene is kind of squeezing out, which is good. That's good. I don't want a lot to squeeze out, but a little bit is a good indicator there that the polystyrene has gotten soft enough and that gap is closed up. Might be just a little bit of one there at the bottom, but that's okay. That'll be easy to take care of. So we're going to let that set off, and then we'll go ahead and do the other side and make sure that, or do the best we can to make sure that we can close up the gap over there. And I'm going to do it the exact same way we did the opposite side. A little bit of, to me, extra thin there, and kind of push it together. You can kind of see it running down and squeezing out just a little bit. I'm trying to keep my fingers out of it. We don't need any fingerprints cemented into the side of our turret there. A little bit more there. And I'm going to press it together and hold it and let that grab really good for us. Okay, so we do have just a little bit of squeeze out here and there, but the seam closed up really nice, so that's going to look really good. One little spot here on the right side, I think, may need a little bit of filler, because I don't really want to sand away the corner there, so we can always fill that later. So next I'm going to put the back plate in place, and I'm just double checking how much it protrudes up. There's a weld seam there, and it does overlap it and stick up, or supposed to stick up, kind of even with the top plate of the turret. So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve here. Now I'm going to put the, to me, extra thin right on that little recess there where it overlaps the edge of the top plate on the turret. And let that soften just for a second, and then go right to it here. And we'll set it in and see if we can achieve that right amount of protrusion coming up to meet the level of the top of the turret there. Now we're not going to glue the sides of it right now. We're just going to get this fit really good here, and we're going to leave both the sides uncemented for now. So now we're ready for the bottom of our turret here. I'm just going to run that, to me, extra thin around that locator rib, all the way around the inside. Now I'm kind of staying away from the corners of the back plate there. I still need those to move for us, and we can always cement those up very last. So I really want this to stick good, and I want the plastic to be pliable enough on the inside there that we get a nice, even and level seat when we put that bottom plate in. To insert it, we just tuck the front of the bottom plate into the front of the turret there, and make sure it's fully seated there. And I'm just going to squeeze it all together with my fingers here and close up any gaps. And it actually fits really good. So we've got it nice and secure. And I'm just going to hold it until all that cement there kind of grabs and holds the bottom for us. And once it grabs, we just go ahead and finish it off. And yeah, that'll do it, I think. So I was really worried about these lower corners here on the back plate. Just wanted to make sure that they came out right where they're supposed to, because the side armor overlaps the back plate. But as you can see, we got nice contact there. Seems to be pretty well flush. So now we'll just put it a little bit of cement there to soak through that vertical joint on both sides, and that will do it for the main construction of our turret. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of perfect plastic putty on those lower corners there, the front of the turret. We do have a little seam there that's not supposed to be there. So we'll fill those and give that plenty of time to dry. It being a water-based putty, it's easy to sand and clean up. So, and it dries really quick compared to the other putties. So since we're not following our instructions, I thought it would be a good idea to check our metal barrel here and see how well it fits into the actual plastic part that's supposed to receive it. So as you can see, it doesn't really want to go in. So now would be the time to take care of that. And as you can see, you really pull it to get it back out. So it needs to go in that far. And this kit does not have a plastic barrel, so the metal barrel is our only option there. So what I'm going to do is roll up nice and tight here a piece of emery cloth. Now this is Grit 400, and it is cloth backed, so it rolls up nicely. And we're just going to kind of sand that out on the inside there, kind of give it back and forth a little bit and a little bit of turn here and there to enlarge that hole ever so slightly. We need a snug fit, but we need to be able to get that barrel in there without damaging any of the plastic when it comes time to actually assemble the whole turret there. So I just keep rechecking, and I want that fit to be nice and snug, but I don't want the barrel to actually fall out. Maybe needs a little bit more sanding, but we're almost there. So I'm just going to finish fitting that barrel, so we'll be able to get it in when it comes time to actually cement it into place. So let's go back to our instructions here in step 14. So we've got all the major components of our turret already assembled there. So that's good. So I think the next thing we need to actually work on is we've got these two little pieces that goes on either side of that piece we just got done sanding. And it kind of fits on those little trunnions or pins on either side of this piece. And that's so we can elevate and depress the gun. So we need to fit those parts. So here are the little pieces that goes on either side of the actual gun mount, and as you can see, they're not rectangular, they're kind of wedge shaped a little bit there, but we need to check this fit right here, and they will not go on without a whole lot of force. So we need to work on that a little bit. And also I want to check, as you can see, it goes into these slots inside the front of the turret there. So if I press them, they will go, but they are kind of snug. Now we don't really need to sand these down. I think they're going to be fine. The to me extra thin will soften them up enough that they'll be able to actually slide into place. I just want to check and make sure that the dimensions are consistent and that we can actually get the pieces in on either side. And so that works pretty good actually. So we can take those back out and work on those trunnions. So I've decided to sand the pins or trunnion there. And I think from the molding process, where the mold seam is where they're thickest there. So we're going to kind of take care of that a little bit. We're going to sand it a little bit, and then we will check it to see if it will slide on. Now, we still need it to have resistance, otherwise our gun barrel will just flop down onto the front deck, and we don't want to do that. We need it to be have some tension there, so we need to carefully fit these to either side. That way we'll be able to elevate and depress our gun barrel, or gun tube rather, without it just falling down. And we're just going to have to carefully keep going with this and testing it until we get the right amount of resistance. Now, how much you do is up to you. Just remember, we are putting a metal gun barrel on, or gun tube, rather than a plastic one. So it is going to have a little bit of weight to it. Now, once we've fit those pieces, we need to check and make sure that it will slide into our turret. Now, notice that the short, narrow side goes in first. It's kind of like a little wedge, and it'll just slide into place, just like so. And it still elevates and depresses, which is good. So that's going to fit all right. So now we need to go ahead and cement that into place. So using my Tamiya applicator brush, which I have removed nearly all the cement off of it there, we're just very lightly going across the surface there. I just want to soften it up where the contact points are for these little pieces here that hold the whole thing into place. But I don't want to use too much Tamiya Extra Thin because it will wick down around those pins and cement it and it'll be permanent. And we don't want that. We want it to be able to move. So we have to be very careful with that. And we need to also pay attention to where our gun port is for our machine gun. So I'm lining that up so that I make sure that I don't put this in upside down, because you can do that. And that would be bad. So our machine gun would be on the wrong side. So with a little bit of Tamiya Extra Thin here down inside the front plate of the turret there, just right along those contact points there. You don't overdo it because we don't want to foul up those pins where it's supposed to be able to pivot on. Pins and pivot, that's a lot of P's. So we're just going to press that into place, and we can look down inside the turret there and make sure that those little blocks are fully seated, just like so. And so that should be good to go. Yeah, it looks good. So while we're here, we're going to go ahead and put on these little armored side plates there. You do have a left and a right. However, I do see that we need to go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Where we had that little bit of squeeze out there. I'm just going to lightly sand that part right there. Don't want to take the edge off. I just want to make sure it's a really nice, clean corner there on the front of the turret. And then we can go ahead and cement these pieces into place. So we do have a left and a right. They will not go on any other way, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. So with those on, we can go ahead and reestablish those cut corners there where we put the filler in. A little bit of light sanding there, and that's going to remove most of it. We just want to make sure that that little seam that's right in the middle of that corner is filled and nice and smooth there. And we'll do that for both sides. Now we don't sand it off from the side of the plate there. Those plates are textured. So I'm just using a Q-tip and a little bit of water here. And we'll finish cleaning that up. That way we can remove all that excess residue that's right around those little corners there that we just filled. And that way we can avoid putting any sanding spots or anything like that on that wonderful textured armor plate there. So since we're working on the front of the turret, not really following our instructions, it would be okay to put our machine gun in place. However, it is not slide molded, so the end of it does not look like the end of a machine gun. So we're going to have to fix that. So being very careful, I'm going to use my number 11 X-Acto blade here and try to find the center of it without stabbing myself. So I'm very, very lightly and cautiously putting me a little hole in it. So I'm not quite center, so I'm going to flip it around and apply pressure to the offset there. So try to get it in the middle as best as we can. And I think I can probably just go ahead and clean all this out and put that little barrel detail in with just the blade there. I don't think we need to actually use a drill bit to do this. And it is very small, so you need to be very careful when you're doing this. And while I'm taking care of this machine gun barrel, I just realized that I didn't do the one on the lower hull. So I'll have to go back and fix that one. But that actually doesn't look bad. So nice little detail there. Kind of bring it up a notch there. That should look good. Now it would be a pity to lose that little bitty machine gun barrel, so we're gonna go ahead and install that, because knowing me, it would probably get lost. So we'll go ahead and put that in that little hole that it belongs in, and we really need to get it center of that hole. That hole is kind of counterbored so that it leaves a shadow all the way around it. So we need to double check that though with the mantlet. Make sure that the barrel's aligned properly. And with the mantlet installed, it does need a slight adjustment. So I'm just going to carefully kind of move it around there to get it center of the hole. And hopefully I don't knock it out of alignment later. So that looks pretty good. So we need to make a decision here, and that's on our mantlets. So there are two different mantlets here. The first one here is the old style. As you can see, it's just kind of rounded off there. And then on the updated one, it kind of has this chin that runs underneath there. And that's actually quite important. That's a modification they did, because rounds would come in and impact, and the rounded one would deflect the incoming rounds down through the thin armor on top of the tank, which as you can imagine is not a good thing. So I think I'm going to use the one here with the chin, so that kind of fits more in with my late model Panther here that we're building. So we're just going to put some, to me, extra thin here on the locating recesses and on these protrusions here for putting the mantlet on. And being very careful not to knock our machine gun around, we'll go ahead and set that into place and then just press it in and make sure that we got good contact there. Yeah, that looks the part. Right what we're going for. So let's go back to our instructions, and we'll start kind of filling in all the little spots that we need to take care of. All these little bitty bits and pieces here. We got our lifting eyes there to put on, and a cover for our vent, our exhaust vent there for gun fumes, and the little covers for our periscopes and all that. So we'll go ahead and attack all that right now. So we're going to start with the commander's hatch, and it doesn't really have a hinge. It has an arm on it there that lifts the hatch up out of place, and then it swings off to the side, which is kind of unique for a German vehicle. So I'll put that arm on first, and then we'll put this cover on to the turret here. I believe this is the evacuation fan vent. Not totally sure, so you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And then we'll go ahead and put our commander's hatch on. Now, when it comes to the commander's hatch, you can pose it either open or closed. That's up to you. Choosing to have my tank all buttoned up. And then we can go ahead and start putting those lifting eyes on. Now, as you probably notice, the sprue gates are still on these parts wherever I can leave them. That way it's just easier to clean that up later on after the cement has dried. And we have another little plate that goes on. And I'm not really sure what that plate or bracket is for. It doesn't have anything attached to it, so there you go. And we have our periscope cover to put onto, and I think this is for the it's either the gunner or the loader. We also have a little iron sight here that the commander could use. He could look out of his periscope and kind of manually sight up the gun if, say, the optics or the gunner is out of commission. So we'll put that in place. Now we have two little brackets that goes onto the front of the turret here, right on the top. I'm not sure what they are, but I believe, and I couldn't find any references for it, but I believe they're there to keep the rain shield, the rain and dust shield that goes on over top the mantlet there, from flipping back when the main gun is fired. So I'm going to go with that. But they are kind of curious. If any of you know what these are, just leave that in a comment. I'm very interested in knowing, and I'm sure a lot of other people that may watch this video would like to know too. So with that done, we can go ahead and put the handle on for our commander's hatch. And again, the sprue's been left long there on it. And we'll cut that sprue gate off later when we go to clean up all the other little pieces there. So when it comes to the covers that goes over all the periscopes on the commander's cupola, they have it on this one sprue right here. And the way they have designed this is that we can install all of them at the same time. Kind of a unique idea, and it seems to work very well. Just want to make sure, though, that we are cementing each and every one of them up, because when it comes time to free these from the actual sprue, we don't want one or two of them falling off, and then we'd have to manually locate that. So we just want to make sure that we get everything glued up or cemented up. So after giving it a few minutes for everything to really grab hold so that we're not knocking parts off, we can go ahead and start trimming off all these sprue gates and the sprue that goes around the commander's cupola here. And this is really a great idea. The only thing is, just got to be careful where you put your sprue cutters here. Make sure that we aren't cutting into those protective guards there or covers. And once that is nice and free, just like so, we're all set to start cleaning that up. Now we can go ahead and snip off any of the other little sprue gates that we've left, like on these lifting eyelets here. We'll take care of all of that. And then we'll come back in and just clean up those little connection points. We just want to be careful and make sure that we're not sanding into the body of the cupola here, and that we kind of have full control over our sanding stick there. And any other little areas, we'll just go in with our hobby knife here and kind of trim away any little flash or any little pieces left over there. Just get them cleaned up nicely. So with those cleaned up, I'm going to start working on the other grab handles that are left. So we have the one that goes on this rear hatch. So that's an escape / loading hatch there. And then there is a handrail that goes above it. It's attached to the back side, the top of the turret there. And we'll just get that into place. And I want to make sure that this is seated really well here. And then, of course, we're going to clean these up in the same manner that we cleaned up the other grab handles and the lifting eyes and stuff. So next up, we do have a track that goes on, which is attached to the top of these covers for the periscopes on the commander's cupola. And what this is for the machine gun mount. So the machine gun kind of slides around this rail here. So we will just make sure that that's firmly attached. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So it builds up really nice. So next we can put on our rain and dust shield here. And so that's kind of a hinged guard cover that just, I believe it's spring loaded. Don't know that for sure, but it just rides against the top of the mantlet to keep out the rain and also the dust. So now we're going to take a look at these teeny tiny parts here for the machine gun mount. So the pintle is supposed to just fit right here on the front end of the machine gun mount. Now it doesn't really fit, and we're not going to try to trim it up to make it fit or try to file it or anything. We're just going to let Tamiya Extra Thin do its magic and soften that plastic up for us. And once it's softened, we can just hopefully slide this together. And yeah, it doesn't really want to go, but a little bit of extra force there, and it will slide together. So we didn't need to do any trimming or anything, and that little bitty part is in place. Now, as you can see, I left the sprue attached to the pintle that actually attaches to the gun mount. That way I didn't lose that little bitty piece there. And yeah, that's definitely a candidate for getting lost. So once that sets up a little bit, we can just take our sprue cutters and just trim off the remaining piece of sprue there. And I'm just going to use my tweezers here to kind of true it up a little bit. It's not quite square to the mount like it should be. And at this point, though, the glue has still got that plastic a little bit malleable, so we're in good shape. Now we're going to set that off to the side and let it dry. So now we're going to take a look at our travel lock for the main gun tube. And as you can see here, it's quite a few parts. 4 parts to make it up. Now, we do have to make a decision here whether we want the closed travel lock, which goes around the barrel, the gun tube, to hold it in place, or the open one. And for this build, I am choosing the open travel lock because our weapon is going to be in the use position. All right, so we're going to start putting this together. And the first thing is we have this one bracket, part of the hinge here. Goes on one side there. And as you can see, you kind of have to wedge it in underneath the handle that's kind of molded in there for that multi-link chain that goes over top of the gun tube. And we want it to have the tab down. So we need to make sure that we are orienting, it's easy for me to say, right? Going to orient these the exact same way as in the diagram. We don't want to put them in backwards. And those little tabs for inserting it onto the hole need to go down. So this is not working out too good for me. The other one's not going to stay on. So I think the best thing to do is going to be to attach it to that front bracket there, or armor plate that goes across the front of it there. I don't think it's really armor, but it's there to stiffen up our hinge assembly there. So I'm going to put a little bit of Tamiya Extra Thin on it there, and we're going to put that into place. And I need to make sure that the tab is facing down in the right direction there, and that it has plenty of relief so that we can actually insert this into the slots that it goes into on the upper hull. And we do want to make sure it's straight. So after I let it stiffen up for us there so that we're not knocking that piece off, we can now try to assemble this. And these parts are small, as you can tell, and they are also very light. So you're kind of pushing these around a little bit here. So a little bit of fiddliness here, but we can get this. If I can keep it inserted and then get everything right where we need it,
probably best just to drop a little bit of extra thin there. And you can see how light that is. That extra thin, it kind of stuck to the brush there. And we'll just get everything pushed together. And once we get everything aligned correctly there, we'll just set this aside and let it finish drying. Now we can turn our attention back to our machine gun and the mount there. If I can get it to flip over. There we go. So right at the breech end of the barrel there, kind of sets into that little pintle that we glued on previously. However, the machine gun wants to just drop back onto the buttstock there, and we don't want it to do that. We need it to stay pretty much parallel to our actual bracket. So I'm just going to use my file here as a spacer, and that'll hold our machine gun in position there. And that's the angle and the look that we want to achieve. So we'll remove the machine gun, drop in a bit of, to me, extra thin here. Kind of need it to soften up that pintle there a little bit, because the barrel really doesn't want to slide down deep enough into it there to make it really look like it's supposed to be there. So once the to me extra thin has softened up that plastic, the barrel actually sits right down. So we're just going to give it a little push there, and then make sure that everything is lined up and square. And it looks pretty good. So we're going to carefully slide that off to the side there and let that go ahead and set up for us. So another little fiddly part we've got to put together is our muzzle brake. Now this is quite a detailed muzzle brake. As you can see, it consists of 3 pieces. We have the end cap, which we don't need right away, and then we have this baffle that needs to go in. Now let's look at the baffle so we make sure we don't get this backwards. The side that goes in first is going to be the single step, and then the double step side goes towards the front. So you don't want to get this backwards, otherwise it doesn't really sit in there the way it's supposed to, and it definitely won't look like they intended it to. So now all we got to do is get it to drop down inside there without it flipping upside down. And then I'm just going to use my pointed tweezers here and just push it in, and it actually fits really snug. It's a good fit. And just make sure that you get it seated all the way. And once it's seated, we'll just cement that into place, and that'll take care of that part. So the next item is to put the cap on the end of it here, and it doesn't really fit like they intended it to. The cap is just a little bit bigger in diameter than the relief there on the end for it to go into. So we're just going to put that to me extra thin on here and soften that plastic some. And that should be just enough to get this cap to go in, or at least that's the idea. And then I just need to push it in, and it's starting to go. We'll just work on it a little bit. You can always add more extra thin if you think you need to. Just don't touch it with your finger, because you will leave a fingerprint in it. we don't want to do that. As you can see here, I cracked it. Not enough extra thin and too much pressure, but that's okay. We can feel that, and nobody other than you and me are going to ever know that that was actually cracked. So we just need to clean up a little bit of flash there. It's one of the few parts that has some flash on it, but we do need the exit hole there at the end to be nice and round. And yeah, we do have a crack. So we will fill that, and we need to sand that corner edge there around that cap nice and smooth too. So let's go ahead and put that travel lock into place. So we have 2 little slots there, either side of this hull vent here, and we need to kind of insert those little tabs that are on those hinge parts down in there. and it doesn't really fit too good. It's about right now that I realize that it probably would have been easier to assemble this travel lock on the hull rather than to trying to assemble it as a separate assembly. But it does go in, and we will just cement that into place there. And as you can see, it still works. So, yeah, see that? Flips back and forth. So I didn't get any, to me, extra thin around those hinge pins. So we're in good shape. So now I need a little bit of medium CA glue here, because we're going to attach our muzzle brake to our gun tube here. And since it's plastic to metal, you know, CA glue is about the only way to do it other than two-part epoxy. And I think CA glue is much easier to use, so we're going to do that. And we'll just press it in and hold it until it grabs. I just want to make sure that it doesn't wobble and everything's nice and set and it looks straight. So yeah, that's a nice looking muzzle brake there. Okay, so with that done, we can go ahead and throw a little bit of perfect plastic putty on that little crack we have there. And once it dries, I'll go ahead and sand all that down to include that corner, that edge all the way around the brake. And with that done, we can go ahead and insert our barrel here, or gun tube, and get everything kind of lined up here. So I'm not going to cement this in yet. Not that it would matter. I don't think it really does, but at the moment I'm just going to leave it just like this. And there's plenty of tension on that barrel that it's not going to fall out. Okay, so it's time to take care of these cables. So we do have our track install cable that gets wrapped around that bracket that we installed on there. And it's supposed to be 135 millimeters in length. Now, I do believe that they're talking about the length of the cable. So that's what I'm going to go with. And then for our tow cables, they're supposed to be 150 millimeters in length, or 15 centimeters. So that is the length that I'm going to cut the actual copper wire. You know, those copper cables that come in the kit. So the first one we're going to do is going to be the track install cable. Now, all these cables are going to go together the exact same way. The only difference is the size and, of course, the ends that go on them. So we'll just do the track install cable. So I've got my ruler here, and we're going to kind of measure out our 135 millimeters. And I'm going to take my tweezers and pick the cable up right at the 135 millimeter mark there. I'm not going to hold it tightly. Don't want to let go of it. And then we'll take our wire cutting snips here and just go right down to our tweezers. Give it a nice pinch there, and we should cut it free. There we go. Now, since this is copper wire, don't use your sprue cutters. You know, you don't want to start dulling those on any kind of metal. So sprue cutters are for sprues, plastic, and reserve a set of cutters just for metal. So we need to check the end of the wire and see if it will insert into our cable ends here. And these are the small ones for the track install, and they do not fit. So we're going to have to drill those out. So I'm just kind of trying to size up which drill bit I'm going to use. So I think the 0.8 will be sufficient. So we're going to drill these, even though these have been slide molded and it's supposed to fit for us. Just don't expect that to happen. And in this case, that copper wire is too large to actually insert. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this out very carefully here. And after giving the end of the wire a nice little twist there to make sure all of our copper fibers there, copper strands, I should say, are nice and tight. And you do want to make sure that that is the case, because when you cut this copper wire, of course, it's going to flatten it out. So we need to make sure that that's nice and round and as tight as we can get it, so that we can insert it into our cable ends without any trouble there. So we're going to be using CA glue to attach our cable ends, of course, because we have plastic going to metal, and only CA glue is going to be able to accomplish that. And I am going to put the CA glue right into the end of our cable end. So, yeah, that way we'll be able to kind of rotate our cable up into the plastic end there and get it to seat fully, and then let the CA glue just take over. And you want to be careful that you don't kind of push away any of these strands. You need to get all of them into that little bitty hole. So, yeah, give it a little twist there, and there we are. That's a cable end attached. And so we will attach the other end the exact same way there. And that will complete our cable assembly. And of course, we'll do our tow cables exactly the same way. Only difference is the diameter is different, and of course the length. So next is, well, it's fitting the cables to the actual vehicle. And I start out here trying to do the loop on the bottom there, or I should say the cable end, underneath the bracket that it goes on. And this is our track install cable here that we're trying to wrap. And in the end, I will tell you that the best thing to do is to take and coil it around a paintbrush and make the coils nice and tight, and that'll help you kind of get it around the bracket. Also, start at the top and then just kind of coil it around to the bottom. So next up is fitting our tow cables. So you see we have these little discs here that's at the top of our tool racks, and that's both, it's actually on both sides of the vehicle. So the eyelet will slip over those, and then of course it will slide down into the little U-shaped bracket right there. And then we can put it along the vehicle there and make our bend where we want it to go. And this is copper, so if you make a mistake, you can always straighten it out and do it again. So here you can see how tight that track install cable has to be wrapped. And yeah, it is really tight. Just start at the top and wrap it around and leave the loop at the bottom. That's the best way that I've found to do that. And for our tow cables, you can see I've kind of sagged it down around where the turret is. And that's because when this turret rotates, if you leave the cable up high, the turret will actually contact it. So kind of have to push it away a little bit, and that's okay. That gives it a little bit more realism there. And you can see here in this picture, with the turret turned around, that's kind of, it needs to slide over top all those cables. And you also need to check the other side to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the rotation of your actual turret. And so that will wrap it up here for part 3 of our Panther. So look for part 4 on Friday. And special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos. And if you're new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today that I did earn your subscription. And if you'd like to leave a comment, the comment section is always open, and I answer everyone. So until next Friday, you guys stay safe.